Game over.
Well, hello. Hi, everybody. How's everyone doing? Well, welcome to our second annual Blasian March Book Fair. I am the founder of the Blasian March, Rohan, and I am so grateful for all of you to be here today. We are just here to celebrate each other's experiences, literature, ideas, all the things. So, I am so excited to kick off the performance hour with the lovely Caire, Naima Williams. Give it up for Caire. You don't want an intro?
Oh, were you going to intro me?
I was, but it's fine.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So, y'all should know Caire. Caire is a writer, poet, and performer based in New York City with publications in featured in Mass Magazine, excuse me. She is the 2018 winner of the Tennessee Williams Literary Festival Fiction Award and the 2019 recipient of the Monroe Prize for Excellence in African American Studies. And she has been featured in the New York Times and has an upcoming picture book, The Bridges Yuri Built. Let's give it up for Caire.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Is this working? Okay, we're good. Thank you so much, Rohan, and the organizers for having me. I'm very happy to be here with you today. I'm going to read a poem for you. It's called Radical Imagination. It's from my latest chapbook, which is called Tomorrow Maps. The poem begins with a quote from Mumia Abu-Jamal. So this is Radical Imagination. Conventional wisdom would have one believe that it is insane to resist this, the mightiest of empires. I'm gonna start over. Radical imagination. Conventional wisdom would have one believe that it is insane to resist this, the mightiest of empires. But what history really shows us is that today's empire is tomorrow's ashes, that nothing lasts forever. In this, our new country, I gather my children. Say, how lucky you are to grow up out of ashes. We have buried all the emperors for you to play with your cousins on the grass their bodies give, the only thing they had to offer the earth in the end. For you to run free through prairies, hills, forests, and fields that belong to none of us. Because in this country, we sidestepped the grave error of etching our names onto everything with its own language. Instead, we let the land break our tongues over its own pronunciation. This time, the land tells us how we can be of use, and we train our ears to receive. And that was just the first decree. In this, our new country, where it is not a crime to come from somewhere else, and citizenship is granted upon reenactment of one's most beloved proverb, since every other is part of one. Another blended harmony standing out in a national anthem, and you can be a bended knee, or raised fist, or palm over heart, since in this country, we mind our own business, don't tell nobody how to move against the swell of song in the old empire. They labeled us poison while letting the life out of water, isolated us like illness in the body they drew us into, a body they invaded first and claimed to have came to consciousness inside. They constellated the land with confinements, cut fences and clamped circles round whole demographics, from the knowingest grandmother to the freshest son, who never got a chance to be alive and young enough not to be hated by his country. They shut us into camps, concentrated their eyes on our entire lives, registered our birthdays. They took fishermen for spies, then handed them back to our families, broken into scales. They swiped our language and left only bare skeletons of folk tales. They closed us into prisons, while plantations stayed open for white people to throw weddings on. They closed in at the protests and beat us open, as if to batter their blood taste for blackness out on all the bodies their batons could touch. And I know, it may be irresponsible to use the word we, presumptuous pronoun us in a poem, but this is a country, and we made us a possibility, an even plane, a wilderness of differences with the same height, the same health care, the same rights, the same blood, the same children, and I am in us, a mixture of countries and blood that met as comrades and created the same children. My ancestors come to my candle, whisper. We suffer different beneath the same rule, but our resistances rub shoulders and the shared muscle is you. They told me that, so I could tell you, my children. We have burned it all down for you. There are no prisons, only gardens, no wardens, only women with an eye on your progress as you make it home late at night. There are no cops, just your girls running up to form a chain, just witches twitching to twist up a perp's name with their tongues. There are no reservations, only free feast programs running from coast to coast. No cages, only open bars for boarders to mingle with hosts. We have every reason to toast the grand old guardsmen of convention because they were so wrong. We, the natives, survived the end they promised would never come, and we marched on. At some point, with our backs turned, the past entombed itself in glass, renamed itself history. We thought their war on us would always last, but here you are, blessed progeny of protest, anointed with ash, uprising every dawn. Thank you.
One more time for Kai, please. Ah, yes, yes. I can't wait for more of your work, honey. It's just amazing. All right, let's get up for our next performing artist, Roy. Roy of he, she, and they pronouns is a queer, non-binary, polyamorous, yes, Chinese-Canadian poet living in Brooklyn where they work in data consulting. I'm very sorry. She no offense to data consultants in the space. She has been published in Prairie Fire, The Windsor Review, and ANMLY, among other places, and has work forthcoming in CanLit. He has reviewed poetry for ARC and Globe and the Mail. And let's give it up for Roy.
Okay, so yeah, I get to go after that. Thanks for the order, Rohan.
You're welcome.
We'll do 3. I'm going to do this old school with no notes, so When trade winds curl, take refuge in the ghost mansion of stars, tack or tumble to safe Xiamen. Would these directions have sufficed, though quadrants miss Taiwan? When you leave, take this pu'er, this tieguanying, this oolong you found, dump it into your porcelain, your harbors, sweeten the deal. I long to drink soup from the Turtlebeak Mansion, 1,000-year comedy just arriving, unbent by astrologer's gravity, undimmed by international dust, just a few photons unentangled by Bob or Alice, yet carrying Chen's truth. I no longer want to imagine, but gorge myself on not being lost in the vacuum spanning Scorpio and Sagittarius. Swallow dwarf stars, shoe nebulae like Tong Hulu, where the song compass points out what was buried and what was burned. Let's do... Let's do the model minority experiences less racism from social distancing. We're no longer gathering in spitting range. You no longer hear any anti-Chinese bullshit, except from the president. I mean, dating apps too, but you can't filter nitrogen out of the air, virtual or real. The Wuhan flu resurrected the face of Fu Manchu, so I'll keep my mask on a little longer, thanks. Ooh. You can't microaggress when opportunity has egress via our high-tech, non-essential window that is closing. My brethren who still don't say Black Lives Matter, perhaps blind to this in their race for round-eyed vantages, perspective forced by oxygen-deprived vantages where they seek only panoramic depths of field. Inertness, or to use the white devil's language, passivity, is a tool, not an obligation. It gets us what we want at the predetermined price, not a safe space to forget gun-gray evenings, clutching at rose stems, pointing to the spade-shaped coxcomb red divots and crying to your ham fists, English beauty is not for you. Okay, now we'll do a longish one. Magic Cicada, a triptych. 1. There was no need for lessons, morsels digested by ear, digested with love, or apples that fuel buzzing around the mid-May maple, or mom in a house dress printed with rose and lime butterflies, standing still like the street lamp that yawns sodium sun that salts her eyelids to bed. I can't remember the words I knew then. Cannot make this real any more than tell you if it was really butterflies on her dress or cicadas breaking the air. Did I cry to my brother joyously? 我也是家常, almost certainly not, but I wanted to have, so I might have had more to lose than pollen off of dirty knees. Look at these wings. I know butterflies are not the same as cicadas, but I too will turn like Tianchan when I go to kindergarten next year. 2. Speak only English. 3. 17 years of maple bred only silence, but a cycle on this American soil, roots of silver birch, gunpowder stolen in the blood, words locked in bones, give birth to language, feed on necrotic xylem. The terms to explain how to hate us less are also not mine, but I think on them as you pretend to think on the Lord. And they will fill, still they fill, elastic collisions, alias a standstill. It's not an Asian fetish, it's just racism. Asia or China equals bad is an axiom, leads only to tautologies. These pearls of yellow peril, they fill, they fly, half-thoughts, engulf your cheeks with gross butterfly kisses. It's not a murmur, it's sirening. But not your words they turn to. Interrogate, why are you so late? You did nothing great. There was no bargain, but for comfort, no heat. You mammal, you wouldn't rather die fucking than be left a nymph in the ground up, turn the sound up, the menace and the nuance don't matter. Think on it in stillness. But this buzzing, this brood, this fly in your mouth when you won't shut your yellow face, 羊肉爆 hole, fling each scrap. Your therapist would be so proud right now in the madness, in the menace, to be a shell, not the shell, to be made mad, mad, Adam, made mad, 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 madam, made mad, 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 ma, and drop.
Applause for Roy, please. Oh man, so yeah, folks, come on in, grab a seat, come on in. Next up, I have the deep pleasure of introducing another performing artist who actually performed at our very first ever Blasian March Chicago last year. Oh, you from Chicago? Oh. James Law Desu is an upcoming rapper based in Chicago, Illinois. His family originates from Queens, New York, then later migrated to Columbus, Ohio, where he was born. James is the son of, okay, Queens. James is the son of an African-American woman and a half-black, half-Japanese man. Originally starting out as a dancer, James began experimenting with songwriting later on in his career. Let's give it up for James.
Hi, everybody. What's up, Blasian March? Okay, so I got some songs I'm gonna do. Like, I haven't been writing music that long, but when I did, like, I tried to get near close to completion, so I hope you enjoy. First one's called, what's it called? Check yourself. Check yourself, you, not my manager. You could never take advantage of on another level. Go ride the Ella, my culture, my body. I'm Blasian, play chess, ain't nobody checking me. Pumas on, ain't nobody stopping me. Even with a scrubby pad, you still can't wash me. James Law, that's looking bro, looking fly. Blasian boy with the bro, looking fly. Eyes real low because I'm always high from staring at the sun, cause I'm meant to shine. Enemies tremble, peace symbol of justice, walk in abundance. Yo, I am the GOAT. Hey, yo, I'm in control. Check yourself, you, not my manager. You could never take advantage of on another level. Go ride the Ella, my culture, my body. I'm Blasian, pity any fool that tries to control me. Useless suggestions I broke, told me. Aquarius on top of the zodiac. Make sure you take you some pics with the Kodak. Year of the bunny, I'm bouncing off walls. Reveal my limitation, reveal it all. Entrepreneurship, I do it all. Boss, I do what I want. Keep my jewels under lock and key. This pay-per-view now, you can't watch free. Optometrist, I say when you see me. Get up now, get up now, get up now. Get to the money like year of the bunny like what? Get up now, get up now, get up now, get up now. Get your money, year of the bunny like what? Basic, be vanilla, wake and throw in a circle. Let's get the party way lit. Put on your work shoes, put on your pay. Let's get money now so you can pay less later. Man, get to the money. All these haters, you know what I'm saying? Hey, give me any beat and I'll leave it brainless, shameless. Craigslist looking. Aim with aiming, go solo like my name Beyonce. Save your breath, I don't need no update. Song's almost over, so I'ma just. Yeah. It's hard. Like. Taking words out when you realize like, oh, I'm about to perform in front of kids. So, all right, next song is, we're gonna slow it down a little bit. Come in. Next song, we're gonna slow it down a little bit. I've been in Chicago for almost 10 years now, and there's nothing more beautiful than taking a lift by the lake shore and just like, usually I'm running late for work, but the scenery just stops you, so yeah, slow down for a second. Lakeshore. It's like you wake up late. Oh, I'm late for work. Call a Lyft. Take Lakeshore, it's the fastest way. They call me the governor, I apply the pressure burn. Sit back and just watch it burn. Roll it up and let it burn. Riding down Lakeshore with the you paid for. Rolling with some real, smoking on them. I know that you mad, that you gotta see me living out my final fantasy, my prophecy fulfilling. How about you get down on one knee and start honoring me? Matter of fact, get down on your knee and start in the room. Yes, I'm really in the booth. You can never get fresh like me. Nah, you can never get dressed like me. Walk up to the bar and get like 4 shots of tequila, sloshing it around in my strawberry burrito. Si tú no te cuides, voy a robar tu señorito. No me gusta esto, voy a switch it como cambia. Cause they call me what? Yeah, I apply what? Yeah, I sit back and I let it burn. Roll it up and let it burn. I wake up and the first thing I do is on rappers. Flow so contagious, I spit on rappers. Flow so contagious, yeah, I'm passing out that COVID. Yeah, the governor, the one the people voted in. Treat the game just like a hit it, quit it, my turn. Straighten shit out with the Willy Wonka perm. Lesson so you can know how to give it back. Don't try to steal my flow. How about you learn how to really rap? Call me the governor, I apply the pressure burn. I sit back and I watch it burn. I roll it up and let it burn. Riding down Lakeshore, I whip I paid for. Rolling with some real, smoking on them. ¿Cómo aprendiste? Es lo que me preguntan. Yo no tengo razón ni tampoco no hay excusa. Este track yo lo abusa. Dale patada a la cara. El estilo africano mezclado con asiano. What? Riding down Lakeshore, I whip I paid for. Rolling with some real, smoking on them. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. All right, this next one is my so-called banger. Shout out to Malo Brigade. Little dance track before my pop track. Los Malitos, let's go. Spread it out, go crazy. Red alert, haters can't faze me. Honestly, the beat is by Malo. Honestamente, mi flow is the best. This Ghost Rider flow rider, I ain't really got flow cooked in the lab. I'm up, can pot roast. I am the new classic. I'm not fancy, I just be dancing, rapping, and acting. Tell him like I'm ill, like a strand of COVID. All about my business, I walk it like I talk it. He just met me, he's not invited. Talk to me nicely, don't be getting excited. Before you with me, know that I'm Blasian. King size standing next to no patience. But I never was a patient. Drag him for dirt, you don't tip my waitress. Can you feel me now? Feel me now? Tell me respect is about them time. Been a long road, we ain't sitting, don't know. Recognize my motherfucking crown right now. I'm out of town now. Give me space. Frown upside down now. Give me face. New balances. I'm lace. Pop me a gummy. Sham lace. Spread it out. Go crazy. Honestamente, this flow is by Malo. Honestamente, mi flow es la clave. Tómatelo todo, este sweet agave. Spread it out. Go crazy. Red alert, haters can't faze me. Honestly, the beat is by Malo. Tómatelo todo, este sweet agave. One trip at a time is how you catch my style. Purify your left 5. Class rap star on my way to millionaire. First class rap star on my way to millionaire. First things first, I wanna move slow. Necesito que me muevas a los pasitos. Call me señor, gotta bleep it out. I'm quite like me, just need you to put it down on me. Call me Mr. Smith, put a bounty on me. You better believe it. I'm forgetting the words, it's okay, but this is the melody, this is how it goes, yeah. Freestyling on the way out, yeah, hey. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Y'all are wonderful. Thank you so much. Give it up for yourselves. This is the last song for me, and then I'm out. This one's called Star. You're all stars. Always shine. Let me see you shine. Star, yes, I'm a star. Expensive taste in a top tier face. Don't call me broski, cause girl, you fake. I'm taking my money all the way to the bank. Multiple venues, I am the headline. Multiple accounts, deposit my checking. NYC, I walk in the spot, looking like a black Asian knockout. Walk up in the spot, put your drink on rock. Ice cube, ice tea, I'm cold, baby. Your boy right here spit more than just words. I'm all about the action, fast and furious. Got an appetite, so I turkey and bass. Whoops, I mean that treble, that bass. Step onto my platform loud and remember, play this down like a net big dragon. No shrimp sized dudes, I only blast magnums. All up in your mouth, about to dig me out the blast. Giving you a boost until you give me 40 fathoms of that good neck. I mean that good eye shit. Don't be blowing up my phone unless you are rich. Yeah, I'm aiming at your pockets. Pay me now or get back in. You're rocking now. Wave. 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 You can love, you can be yourself today. Star, yes, I'm a star. Expensive ass taste in a top tier face. Don't call me broski, girl, you fake. Taking my money all the way to the bank. Multiple venues, I am the headline. Multiple accounts, deposit my check. NYC, walk in the spot, looking like a black Asian knockout. Vibe A1, I'm too content. Hey, I'm a star, I shine. Keep your broke away from me. Make sure you pay my booking fee. I'm nasty. I love them, please them, then pass them. They be trying to get lit, but they ain't with the action. Just cut the check. My last name is Caire. That's it for me.
Make some noise. Make some
Thank
noise.
you so much. Upcoming rapper, follow me at James Law Desu. My music is not uploaded on any streaming platforms yet because I'm always trying to perfect and record. So this is the beginning. I'm glad to be on the same journey as you all. Let's go.
Thank you, James. Okay, I need to stop. All right, up next is none other than the mother of the Blasian March, Iman. Iman was born in Cairo, Egypt, and she was a contemporary dancer at the Cairo Opera House. Now is the founder of Asylias, an organization that fundraises to help trans folks seek asylum around the world, and also in 2021 was one of the BBC 100 women. So give it up from my mother, Iman.
Hello. Hello, beautiful people. Hi. You're great. Okay. Thank you for all being here. My name is Iman. I'm the founder of Asylias, a humanitarian non-profit organization dedicated to relocating transgender asylum seekers in danger to safer countries. I'm grateful to Blasian March and my daughter Rohan for all work they do to uplift Black and Asian LGBTQ plus communities around the world. In 2008, I came to this country as an asylum seeker, fleeing Egypt and the persecution against the LGBTQ plus community. Since I arrived and thought out my transition, it has not been easy to find people like me and built spaces to celebrate Black and brown trans people. This event hosted today focuses on education and storytelling, especially of stories that are banned or censored by the system. We must continue to share our stories at all costs because we are the living examples of liberation. And by telling our stories, we really can change lives. When I began protesting and organizing in 2020, I had no idea how much my life would change by telling my story at rallies and online at all the protests. I always reminded people that the visibility American LGBTQ plus people celebrate does not exist in many countries. There are millions of trans people who face severe violence every day, and we must do everything we can in our power to support them. There are not too many out and proud Arabic trans women. Due to the violence we face online, in our families, and in the streets. Once I shared my truth, people like me began to find me online. Many of them were bleeding to be moved to safe place after reading my story and seeing my trans joy in New York. I knew what I had to do. This is how Trans Asylias began. So I urge you all to tell your stories and celebrate each other's stories in the face of so many trying to silence us. Thank you again, Rohan, and everyone else who organized this beautiful event. And if you are interested to volunteer or supporting my work, please go to transasylias.org. So finally, I wrote this song. It talks about how I felt and realized when I started transitioning and I started feeling different in my hometown, and I felt alone, but not anymore with all of you. So I'm gonna share my song with you. Okay. so much. Thank
Yes, mother! Make some noise from my mother! Like mother, like daughter, honey. Okay, one more time for my mother, please. Okay, we've come to our last number for the performance hour. Oh well. It is my deep honor and privilege to now introduce Sound Off Music for Bail. They are a classical ensemble here in New York, and basically they are a dynamic collective of musicians, activists, and thinkers dedicated to raising money for bail funds across the country, rethinking notions of public safety as they relate to real-life communities, and playing great music. Inspired by the works of abolitionist leaders like Angela Davis, Dr. Cornel West, Ruth Wilson Gilmore, as well as the rise of the organizations such as the Bail Project and the Marshall Project, Sound Off Music for Bail seeks to break the silence around the prison industrial complex with an unexpected weapon: Western classical music. Let's make some noise.
I know I have a loud mouth, but this is helpful. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Also, can we just clap it up for all the performers today? And thanks so much, of course, to the Blasian March organizing team for putting this together. Thanks to Immigrant Social Services for hosting us. My name is Jay Julio. I'm the head of Sound Off Music for Bail. As Rohan beautifully introduced us, we are an abolitionist collective of musicians. So the 5 musicians you see on stage are Connie Lee. Oh my goodness, hold up, I can't do names right now. There's Connie. Oh my goodness. Yes, sorry, my brain. Connie Lee, Yaz Lancaster, JC. Is that how you'd like to be? Jay Clancy. All right, and oh my God, I'm gonna get your name wrong. You are new to us. Darsha. Okay. I'm Jay Julio. The first piece that you're going to hear is the first movement of Coleridge Taylor Perkinson's Blues Forms. It's a solo piece for violin, and I'll be playing it on viola. We will be following it up with Andy Kehoe's Karakuranai and Andrew Noseworthy's I'm sure you will. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you after. You want to, okay. So we'll flip.
Make some noise for Sound Off! Okay. Let's take a 5-minute break. And we'll be back here for our panel with Mona and Daphne. So feel free to stick around. There are bathrooms on every floor. Also, to your left is a timeline of African American, Asian American, Indigenous, and intersectional histories. Check it out. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Thank you.
See you later, buddy. See you later, buddy.
That's a good one.
Nice.
Mic test, mic test. Mic test, mic test.
Hello?
Hi, and we are back.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello. How's everyone doing? Well, welcome back to the final part of today, which is our Writing and Solidarity panel featuring Daphne, Palasi, Andreades, and Mona Eltahaway, two of my favorite feminist authors right now. So I'm just like fangirling over here. It's kind of wonderful. So I want to start off like super easy for both of y'all. What has brought you like joy these past few weeks, especially in the context of like uprisings, revolutions, resistance to patriarchy? What's brought you joy?
Ooh, that is such a good question. I didn't think of it in that context. Like I knew we would be starting off with joy, but in terms of, thinking about...
Sorry, a little add-on.
Yeah, the little add-on of joy and revolution. But I guess reading is always revolutionary because of ideas that are exchanged. So I was rereading Kindred by Octavia Butler, if anyone loves that book. Yes, I read it for the first time when I was 15, and I picked it up again. Now, kind of being in a reading slump, and I just think she's brilliant. I love her language, so I'm rereading. I was rereading that, and it's brought a lot of joy. How about you, Mona?
I love that, the reading and joy. What's brought me joy more recently, Rohan and Daphne and wonderful audience, is weightlifting. I've begun to strength train.
Ooh, wow.
And a couple of days ago, I lifted my body weight in the deadlift, which was a massive achievement for me. So, and it's especially, thank you.
Wow.
I take all congratulations. It's especially important for me because 11 years ago, I was assaulted by Egyptian riot police during the year of the Egyptian revolution, and they broke my left arm and my right hand in 2 places. So the arm and the hand that they broke, 12 years ago, is now able to lift my body weight in the deadlift. So I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yes. Mona, I read one of your interviews or one of your pieces with BBC, and you had this great quote, like, women should also be versed in the language of violence, which, I mean, I don't think deadlifting is necessarily violent, but there's like a strength and a power to that. Remember that.
Thank you, Daphne. I really appreciate that you brought that up. There's something really wonderfully joyous and intoxicating to know that you can lift your body weight and that you're getting stronger. I mean, the way I walk through the world has changed. I'm like, I'm fucking strong, and I'm
Fuck yeah.
I'm going, and I'm going for more, So thank you. I appreciate that.
I love it. Thank you. So I want to just furthermore love on the ideas of like our feminisms in contrast to what we expect in society, right? So you both write a lot about societal narratives, white supremacist, patriarchal narratives around us as femmes of color. I'm wondering, as writers or to folks in the audience, like what are other ways we can circumnavigate or resist or contradict those narratives? So like weightlifting, for example, or other ways we can, like, as femmes of color, be like, fuck the patriarchy. I'm quoting Mona, by the way, on that.
Thank you. I usually introduce myself at the beginning of events by saying, hello, everyone. My name is Mona Eltahaway. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I begin, as I always do, with my declaration of faith, fuck the patriarchy. Thank you.
Of course.
Daphne, how do you resist the white supremacist definition of feminism?
Ooh. Well, I think that with white patriarchy, as someone who's a second generation immigrant, identifies as a person of color, I think white patriarchy is often always trying to separate us, always trying to divide us. And today we're on this panel, we're talking about solidarity, and it's just made me think, like, well, what does solidarity mean to me? For me, it means unity. It means all of these disparate kind of parts and groups coming together. And I find that really, really beautiful. So, thinking about how white patriarchy tries to divide us. We're all from very, very different backgrounds, but we're here. We're here on the stage. I find that really powerful. Also, I guess as someone who is a second generation immigrant, it's really important to me to remember history and to remember how, for example, everything that like the Black American community has fought for in terms of civil rights, like the right to vote, the right to go to schools that aren't segregated by race, the right to interracial marriage, all these civil rights. I'm a non-Black person of color, but I benefit from that. So I think for me, it's really important to see these, remember history, but see these commonalities. So that's kind of broader, not just feminism, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There's actually a passage in your book that I'm remembering right now. When we're talking about commonality and unity. There's a scene where the girls are growing up in Queens, and they're in the dressing room, and there's a white woman knocking on the door and speaking about, I know what you're doing in there, and it's implied that she assumes that they're shoplifting because they're of color. So what I really appreciate about what you're saying now and that part of the book is there's a certain universality to experiences of color. There's a certain even though we have very unique experiences, there are still some points of commonality and some points of parallels. And I'm wondering if you could maybe expand on that, to thinking about how maybe shared experiences can create pathways to solidarity.
Ooh, wow. Yeah, with my book, Brown Girls, which it's upstairs, you can get free copies. For free. Yeah. Again, I was really trying to, when I first started writing it's told in the first person plural, the we, throughout, and the we is this group of first and second generation immigrant daughters from Queens, New York. But I thought, how am I supposed to approach this we? How can I tackle it, I guess, or what's the best way of going about it? So anyway, your question made me think of how something that was integral to capturing the we was actually interviewing friends who I grew up with, who I went to school with from my neighborhood, who are all from different backgrounds or ethnic backgrounds. I'm Filipino American. They're, for example, Chinese American, Haitian American. They're from the Dominican Republic. They're from Bangladesh. And I interviewed them, and that was a really cool way of thinking about where do we overlap? Where do our experiences overlap as immigrants? As young women here in the States, where do they diverge? So I don't know. I think just speaking to people, speaking to them, trying to write through it.
I would say also owning a narrative that we were always told was not ours. And by that I mean, for example, a few days ago, I went to see a screening of a new film called Polite Society by writer-director Nida Manzoor, who some of you might have seen the TV show We Are Lady Parts, which was a wonderful TV show about a group of musicians who are 4 women who are of Muslim background, and just all of them breaking the stereotypes of what you expect a Muslim woman to be. And in her new film, Nida Manzoor has created this incredibly wonderful action film that centers a teenage girl. And this is a brown teenage girl. And you never see, action films that center brown teenage girls. And she wants to be a stunt woman. She refuses to become a doctor. She's like, doctor, And all the pressures that, especially, people from some Asian backgrounds are pushed to become doctors. All those stereotypes. And someone from Focus Features introduced Nida and said, she's made this wonderfully audacious film. And I love this idea of the audacity of creating narratives that are never ours. Because for those of us who are black or brown, those of us who are not white, we're always supposed to explain a million and one things about ourselves, especially the things that hurt us. And then finally we get to whatever we want to talk about. Whereas someone white usually just kind of enters a room and immediately starts on whatever narrative they want, because they're assumed to be the default, and the rest of us are assumed to be some kind of, iterations of this default. So I love the seizure of narrative that Nida Manzoor has done, and the ways that I've tried to do it in my own writing, especially more recently, is to take sexuality and the norms that we, again, as black and brown people are not supposed, or are supposed to abide by. So for me, I'm non-monogamous, I'm bisexual, and I write as openly as I can about all those things, because I believe that desire is political, who we fuck is political, how we fuck is political. All those things are political, but we're not supposed to talk about those things as black and brown people. We're supposed to talk about how we fight with our families and how our families are doing this to us, and religion, and I don't know what, basically like trauma porn, you know? Yeah. And I've done all that. I told you about what happened to me when they broke my arms during the year of the Egyptian Revolution. But I also write about the joy of sex and how much I enjoy sex and how... Yes. Right? Who doesn't? I acknowledge here our asexual friends and comrades, because everyone's sexuality, is welcome, and solidarity for all. But these are the narratives that we have to like seize and say, they belong to me too. And that's how I fight white heteronormativity, or any kind of heteronormativity, mononormativity, and any other kind of norms that, I'm 55 years old now, so I'm like, fuck that shit. I've earned this,
Absolutely. Thank you for that phrase, seize the narrative, because also as a writer myself, it's so frustrating when, these narratives about sexual liberty or gender privilege, they belong to white narratives. They don't belong to us, when it's like, but we're human too. We also have a right to experience and enjoy and investigate and question like, oh, maybe I like that. I'm going to read a quote from you, Mona, from an essay from your magazine, Feminist Giant, of which you're editor-in-chief, which folks can read online for free, on your essay, Dear White Women Cheering Iranian Women. So the quote I love from this essay was, so successful has white supremacist patriarchy been at convincing you that you're lucky to live in the US and not Saudi Arabia or Iran, that so many of you did not pay attention to the theocracy that white supremacy has built right here at home. And I feel like this quote ties into the conversation right now, because it's like, how are we now thinking about the impact of these narratives, especially when we think about how, especially like nowadays here in the United States with the transgender rights issues, when in fact folks of color, us, have been fighting for these rights for how long now, and yet only now white feminisms, white LGBT rights are finally getting the picture. Do you want to talk a little more about the impact of the two divides there?
Absolutely. Thank you for reading my essay and
You're welcome.
giving a shout out to Feminist Giant. So, when I first moved to the US in 2000, I was shocked by how religious this country is, and in a way that very few people question. White Christianity is considered the norm. Like, this is where everything is, and the rest of us are like deviants of it. And the only kind of dangerous expression of religion was over there, like my people. I'm of Muslim descent. But white Christians, they're like the normal regular people. And this idea of it being the norm is so dangerous, because it has allowed the right-wing fascist fucks who are now destroying this country openly to be as brazen as they are. So the destruction of Roe v. Wade, the destruction of same-sex rights, which is happening, and the enmity, the ferocious, violent attacks against the trans community. This is all because white Christians have never been held accountable in a way that any other faith group has in this country. And this is the fascism that we have to pay attention to. And this is why I wrote this essay, because for the longest time when you talk about, what is happening in this country, the first thing that mostly white men, white cishet men would say is, oh my God, be grateful you live here. Don't you know what they do to them in Saudi Arabia or Iran? Well, there's women and trans people in Iran right now burning shit down for the sake of liberation and to fight fascism in Iran. What are they burning down here? I thought when Roe v. Wade was destroyed and we knew it was coming for like 50 years, I was like, okay, they're gonna go and burn down that fucking Supreme Court. Nothing, So what is happening in Tennessee, what is happening in Montana, what is happening in so many places where elected officials are being kicked out and silenced, that is the fascism of white cis heteronormativity. And that is the danger that we have to pay attention to. Any kind of religious extremism is not my friend, regardless of the flavor and the ways that it looks.
Daphne, you want to weigh in on that?
I'm going to just leave it to Mona. I'll second the motion. No.
I mean, it's the things we need to talk about, right?
Yes.
Especially when we're trying to build community and really think about not just like fighting back, but also how we rearrange our political perspectives, because that is the long-term fight, right? So that's why we're here, and I'm so glad you both are here. So Daphne, in your new book, Brown Girls, which is also upstairs for free, there's a passage actually that I think relates a lot to where we're going in this conversation. I love. It reads, the colonized, the colonizer, where do we fall? Realize, whether we like it or not, we lay claim to both. And I love this because we're thinking a lot about, especially as folks of color here in the United States, but also our connection to diaspora, our position in empire. I was wondering what your thoughts are on, what can we do, especially when we are in this position, in this structure, and in some ways in this privilege of being here in the United States versus like other places.
Yes. Yeah, with that line, the colonized, the colonizer, where do we fall? Realize we lay claim to both. I think I'm trying to think back to that time, but when I was writing the book, I think I was trying to explore so many of these tensions of like, what does it mean to have grown up in the States, but like my family and all the generations that came before me were from this other kind of ancestral land. What does it mean to speak one language in school, but like other languages at home, and that this feeling of being in between languages and cultures and values, and going back, to your earlier question of the narratives that are imposed on us. It's like, well, I don't see a narrative for myself. I don't see like, I don't quite fit here in the States, but I don't quite fit, in the country of heritage, for example. So kind of like, where then do I see myself? People tell me I don't belong. And that's something that the characters kind of grapple with in my novel. But I think that thinking about empire, writing this book, being here today, it was really, I think, really what I was thinking about in the end, or came to in the end, that was actually really healing, was this idea of like recognizing hybridity, and that we are hybrids. We're made up of all of these different identities. They could be conflicting, they could be contradictory, they could feel like they don't quite cohere, but like, fuck that, like they don't need to cohere. You can lay claim to all of those identities. Yes. And that was I think a realization for myself, even writing this book.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Mona, I would love to hear your thoughts on hybridity, and of course myself being second gen from Jamaica, and of course, as we know, being queer in that country is not a very safe thing to do or be, but I love your thoughts on hybridity as well.
Well, I was born in Egypt, which, if you want to talk about hybridity, I mean, that is a country where everyone has gone and left their mark. And it is so much more complex than these endless, ridiculous arguments about, was Cleopatra black? Was she white? Can she be played by this Israeli? I'm like, fuck, all of you, come on. It's much more complicated than that, Everyone has been to Egypt, and when you look at the faces of Egyptians, you can see that. There's an indigenous black population in Egypt, the Nubians, and then there are the rest of us, And so what I try to do as someone who's been in the United States, since the year 2000, is to first of all acknowledge that I'm a guest in a country that we often refer to as Turtle Island, or a land that we often refer to as Turtle Island, because I'm not indigenous. So we all are benefiting from the crimes that genocided and stripped the indigenous people of the lands that they had on this continent, or the various continents, called the Americas. By the way, the Americas is named after one of those colonizers. I forget his actual name, but they did not start out as the Americas. So let's stick with Turtle Island. So I recognize, the privilege that I have here as being someone who lives on lands that belong to indigenous people. I also recognize my light skin privilege, because what I learned from my black friends, and I'm so glad you gave a shout out to black feminists and black comrades and revolutionaries, Daphne, is, I take the lessons of that complicated relationship with ethnicity and race in this country and apply them to Egypt, because we're racist as fuck in Egypt, and there's colorism in Egypt, and there's homophobia in Egypt, and the Nubian community can speak to the colorism and the racism. And I know that many of us who come from various, quote-unquote immigrant backgrounds can also speak to that, because yesterday I have a feminist book club that I co-present with the Strand Bookstore, and yesterday the featured book was a book called Fat Off, Fat On, a Big Bitch Manifesto by a Nigerian-American author called Clarkeisha Kent. Get it? Clarkeisha Kent. Right? I highly recommend Clarkeisha's, it's a memoir, right? And as a Nigerian-American queer disabled woman, she is able to speak to so many identities, and also able to recognize that fat phobia and colorism doesn't just exist in the United States. It exists, quote unquote, back home in Nigeria, as it does back home in Egypt. So when we talk about hybridity, it's important to understand, quote unquote, who we have replaced, how we have benefited from that replacement. I live in Harlem, for example. I'm not black. I haven't lived in Harlem all my life. So again, I recognize the massive privilege of living in Harlem. And it's so important to understand all of these intersectionalities, because intersectionality isn't just being allyship across our various groups. It's also important to recognize intersectionalities of oppressions that have resulted in all these things that I talk about. So I think it's complex. I think that's what hybridity is. So when people ask me, like on dating apps, people will come on and they will say to me, "What ethnicity are you?" This is the polite question, right? What is your ethnicity? If someone white asks me this, I'll just tell them to fuck off. But but if it's black and people of color asking what is your ethnicity, I say, I'm Egyptian, and that is a very complicated ethnicity because of all these histories that I've spoken about.
Wow. So, side note, for, as you said, our privilege being here on land that's been colonized, stolen, part of the Blasian March's Land Back initiative is also to include Native literature upstairs. So there are plenty of indigenous authors up there. There's also books for children from Native writers, so please check that out as well. So one thing I'm loving about hybridity myself is, myself being Black, Chinese, Filipino, Desi, queer, second gen, this height plus 9 inches now as of today. It's very painful. What?
You've got great legs, Rohan.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't know how Megan does this, but one thing I also with the Blasian March and our work here is really thinking about how to use our positions to exchange power between our communities. And I know both of you, especially Daphne in your novel, using everything in plural first person. There's, for me, I read an exchange of power through familiarity. Mona, in a lot of your essays, like Iran's Feminist Revolution, Women, Life, Freedom, you also really emphasize and highlight the references to the Kurdish freedom movement. And I would love to hear both of your thoughts on how do we now use our positions to create this power exchange?
Ooh. The first thing that comes to mind is that I write in the space of fiction. This is my first novel, and I've written a couple of short stories, but I find it interesting. I've done some events in the past where people have asked me like, oh, your book is like, or they've commented, is your book representative of the immigrant experience of all people from Queens? And for me, it's really important to say in those moments, like, my book is just one story, and I hope that it's a pathway for other stories to be told. So I don't know exactly how to answer your question except by continuing to write, continuing to be honest in my writing, and
Absolutely.
stepping back and hoping that other people can feel the courage, the space to also tell their stories. Because there are so many stories, never just one, never just pressure on the one story.
Yes, take space, make space.
Mhm.
Thank you, Daphne.
Mhm.
Mona?
Well, in excuse me, my newsletter, Feminist Giant, one of the things that I started the newsletter to do, one of the reasons that I started it was to highlight global feminist resistance to patriarchal fuckery. That's like the subtitle of the newsletter.
Love it. That's so great.
Global feminist resistance to patriarchal fuckery. It's quite a mouthful. And there are two incredible feminists who are contributors to my newsletter, and they're both women of color. Samiha Hussein and Inara Marani. And when they began contributing to the newsletter, they began as interns. They're now paid contributors. The newsletter is free because I'm an anarchist and I demand that I insist rather that feminism never be behind a paywall, because anarchism is all about horizontal solidarity and mutual aid, and paywalls are none of those things. So the newsletter is free, but I always tell people if you can pay, it helps to keep it free, because I pay the contributors. And my mission for Samiha and Inara when they began was decenter whiteness, and go and find stories of feminist resistance. I didn't want stories of women raped, women murdered, trauma porn. I didn't want that. What I wanted them to highlight was all the ways that feminism is resisting around the world. And so 3 times a week, they compile something called the Global Roundup, which are they curate 5 examples from different media around the world of feminist resistance. In almost every newsletter that Samiha curates, there's an example of indigenous resistance, be it Two-Spirit people and their queer activism, or indigenous insistence on being, existence as resistance. The stories of the disabled feminisms around the world. A more recent story, for example, was how the Indian Supreme Court is looking at a marriage equality bill, because the LGBTQ community in India is pushing for same-sex marriage or marriage equality. So basically what I'm trying to say is I'm making space through my work by offering my platform. I started in journalism, when I was like 20, which is now 35 years ago. I'm 55 now.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I've amassed power, I'm at the stage of my life. I'm 55 years old. Ancient Chinese medicine calls the menopause transition, which I have gone through. You can congratulate me. I accept all congratulations. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm postmenopausal. Ancient Chinese medicine calls the menopause transition the second spring. And I love that. So I'm in my second spring, and I am offering my platform to feminisms around the world and to these 2 young feminists who are working for the newsletter as examples to show that every day we resist patriarchal fuckery. We are not surrendering. We are not submitting. We are resisting patriarchal fuckery around the world, and not just here in the United States.
Yes. All right. Before I open up to the floor for other questions, I just want to ask really quickly, are there any other writers you are looking up to right now or admire in this work? You can say each other, it's fine.
Mona.
Perfect.
No, No, I always tell people to read June Jordan. I have her words tattooed on my arm. June Jordan was a black bisexual poet and activist, Jamaican American.
Hey, wagwan.
And her poetry, she created a school called Poetry for the People. Incredible poetry. She traveled the world. She went to revolutions around the world. She connected local resistance to global resistance, which I was just telling you about with Feminist Giant. Please read the poetry of June Jordan. Incredibly powerful. Desire and political resistance. Doesn't get any more intoxicating.
Yes. Daphne.
I mentioned her earlier, but Octavia Butler.
Yes.
Period.
All right. I will now open to the floor. Are there any questions for our readers? Hi. Yes. Pop off, honey.
Thank you for that question. That question came up when, I mentioned the feminist book club that I run with The Strand, and one of the books that we featured, I'm actually a contributing essayist to, a book called This Arab is Queer. And it was, the editor of that anthology is a Palestinian, Australian, Lebanese journalist called Ilyas Jahshan. And, Ilyas and myself have both been asked, why don't you write in Arabic and why aren't your books in Arabic? Other than the fact that no Arabic publisher would have published either Ilyas's anthology, This Arab is Queer, or my first book, Headscarves and Hymens, Why the Middle East Needs a Sexual Revolution. I still can't find an Arabic publisher for it. But when I was discussing this with Ilyas, I said to him something that I hope can offer you something to think about, yeah? English belongs to us too. I mean, yes, it's a language of the fucking colonizers, but it belongs to us too, It's time for us to seize it, just as we seize the narrative. Now, by writing in English, what you're doing is you're displacing the center of power from those fucking Orientalists that you just mentioned, Because you now, as an Iranian woman, you are writing the narrative that you want people to read, rather than these, white professors who are constantly setting the agenda. You now are setting the agenda. English belongs to you now, This is not, the 17th century with these white Christian Victorians going around the world telling everyone to fuck in missionary position. This is, this is now 2023, English belongs to you too. Now, if you want to pepper your English with Farsi, go ahead and do it, and don't translate it. But own it, it's yours, because there's power in that. Because when you write in English, people around the world will read you. Not just the white supremacists here, but people around the world. Own it, it belongs to you too.
I 100%, 1000% agree with what Mona said. And, like we were talking about earlier in our conversation, it's like we're here in the States, we have so much privilege, we have so much power. We can fucking leverage that. And we should. We should tell the stories that are important to get out there. And of course, there's always going to be a weird, difficult, fraught linguistic history, but I 100% agree, like, who could your stories reach, and how can it change the narrative and decenter the narrative?
And use English to tell the colonizer to fuck off, because, so he can understand you when you tell him to fuck off. And then tell him to fuck off in Farsi.
I'm also a fan of imagining using these structures to our advantage, right? Like as we're saying earlier, this language belongs to us. We now have certain access to these rooms and these spaces and these structures that typically would be barred from us back in the Victorian era when these colonizers were like, the earth is round, wow, okay. But yeah, I especially with with work at the Blasian March, my own writing, I love the idea of using structures to our advantage and using things that are already in place, because now playing the colonizer at the colonizer's own game, beating them at their own rules, means they have no way to challenge our authority. So yeah. Any other questions? Do y'all have questions?
I hope that people who are here, thank you for coming. I hope that, our conversation helps you navigate the world in the way that you want to navigate it. Like when I went to see Polite Society and I heard Nida's work being described as audacious, I'm like, I'm supposed to be writing, my editor will kill me because I haven't written anything yet. I'm supposed to be writing my new book, which is called The King Herself, How Hatshepsut Helped Me Unbecome. And it's like a love-hate letter to menopause, and it's kind of like a memoir of, my menopause transition. And I was like, I went home after seeing Nida's film, and I thought, first of all, that was fucking amazing. Second of all, how can I be audacious in writing my memoir, There's strength and power in being on a stage with a fellow brown woman, with a brown and black femme, and sitting there thinking, my God, I'm going to be inspired by Rohan's legs and heels.
Yes.
I
To
don't
cry later with lots of ice and tequila.
I'm not objectifying you, I'm like, respect.
Oh no, I want you to.
Oh, there you go. They're gorgeous, darling, gorgeous. I'm going to be inspired by Daphne's work and the fact that my sister knows her editor, and I think, what a small world this is, So like, take those pieces of audacity and inspiration and go out there and do the things that you were never told you could do, Challenge the things that you were always told, oh, this is your place, sit over here, please, and wait your turn. Fuck that shit, It's always your turn. Like, I finally made myself write an essay about my 2 abortions, because being a woman who looks like me from where I come from, born in Egypt, of Muslim descent, it took me 25 years to be able to write about my illegal abortion in Egypt and my legal abortion in the US, so-called, because fuck the Supreme Court and fuck the state and telling me what I can and can't do with my uterus. But it took me that long. But you know why I finally wrote it? Because I blurbed a book by a South Asian American doctor called Dr. Meera Shah, who is an abortion provider. And her book is called You're the Only One I've Told, The Stories Behind Abortion. And they're mostly black and people of color. And every person who told her their story of abortion said to her, I wish I knew someone who looked like me, because it would have made my abortion story less lonely. And there were 3 women of color in her book, and one of them of Muslim descent. Sorry, 3 South Asian women, one of them of Muslim descent. And I read this book after I blurbed it and said, wow, what an incredible book. And I was like, step up, Mona. Because here is a woman of Muslim descent in this book saying, I wish someone who looks like me had spoken about their abortion. And I was like, it's my turn to step up. So take that space, step forward, and know that it's your right to own your narrative, and know that when you do, you are giving courage and inspiration to someone who felt so lonely because they didn't hear a story that reflected theirs. Own your story and share it with the world.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions before we wrap up and head to the raffle? Great, well,
Can I do something that I usually do at the end of events? For those of you who can stand up, please stand up. And turn on your camera phone if you like, because this is often fun to take videos of. At the count of 3, we're going to yell, fuck the patriarchy, okay? All right, so get your phones ready. We're going to do it 3 times, and we're going to get louder and louder, okay? 1, 2, 3.
Fuck the patriarchy!
And like, film each other as well, not just us, yeah? All right, that was okay, but I know you can do better. We're New Yorkers, come on. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Fuck the patriarchy!
I like that. Now listen, there is Mayor Eric Adams and there's Donald Trump, both in this city. Fuck them both. So let's make it loud enough for them both to hear, all right? 1, 2, 3.
Fuck the patriarchy!
Thank you.
Oh, wow, okay. Mona, Daphne, thank you so much. Make some noise. So once again, folks, their books are both upstairs. Oh, taking a selfie. Yes.
Maybe you should do it. Oh, should we do kissy? Kissy
Yes.
kissy face. Daphne. Thank you. Oh my God, okay.
Here? Okay. All right. It's now time for the raffle. Are you ready for some raffle prizes? Here downstairs. Here? Okay. Oh, I do. Oh. 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 Do we have the prizes up here or are they downstairs still? Okay, great. Okay. Thank you. Ooh.
I am gonna run off.
Go.
Go to the airport, darling.
This one has a flight to catch, so kisses. No. Okay, so it's time to raffle off some prizes. First off is our first prize is a signed copy of a poetry book by Chen Chen. Chen Chen is an author of the forthcoming poetry collection. If I can pull a sticker off. Your emergency contact has experienced an emergency. And also the forthcoming essays. They won so many prizes around, including a National Endowment for the Arts. And the winner is Christine Stickles, number 12. Yay, congrats! Christine, are you here? We'll find you. Okay, great. Is this? Oh, the second prize is a self-care kit from Angry Asian Women, which is a series of self-defense items, cute things like that to make sure you're safe on the streets. And the winner is Duong Tan. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Are you here? No, we'll find you too. Great. Tea bag? Yay, okay. Next up is a tea care package, courtesy of Diverse Streets Initiative. This is a collection of teas from the Black-owned company, Brooklyn Tea, as well as the Asian-owned company, Yamamoto Yama. And the winner is Steve Johnson. Are you here? No, it's fine. We're just going to run down. We have a second tea package. So that winner is Tahalia Lassi. I don't know. Okay, are you here? No? Great. Moving on. Everyone's gone home. That's fine. We love it. Okay, next prize is a Kindle that was donated anonymously. Ethan M., are you here? Are you downstairs? Are you upstairs? Ethan. Okay, great, fine. We actually have a second Kindle to give away. So, wow. So that winner is Samantha Leong, are you here? Great. Just gonna keep on rolling. Oh, okay. Next prize is a t-shirt, courtesy of Angry Asian Women. And that winner is... Oh, Georgiana Franco, are you... Okay, great. I thought just email the prize winners at this point. Okay, next prize. Great. Everyone, that's it. Thank you for coming. This concludes the second annual Blasian March Book Fair. How are folks feeling? Do you want to like close out with a song as per tradition? Do y'all just want to go home? I don't, either way. Let's do a song. Okay, yeah. Okay, here for a song. Okay. So if y'all have been at the protest with me, you know this one. I do it all the time. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. And repeat. It is our duty to win. We must love and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. We have nothing to lose but our chains. We have nothing to lose but our chains. Justice for Asians. Justice for Black people. Freedom for Asians. Freedom for Black people. Power to Asians. Power to Black people. Black Asian freedom. Black Asian freedom. Black Asian freedom. Black Asian freedom. Thank you, everybody. This concludes the Blasian March Book Fair. Upcoming events for us include a Blasian March for affirmative action in Washington, D.C. Pending SCOTUS's decision, one way or the other, we're gonna march, honey. June 11th, we are back here for our third annual Pride Rally, centering LGBT, Black, Asian, and Blasian people. And June 30th, we'll be in Sacramento for their first ever Blasian March and the first ever West Coast Blasian March Book Fair. So we growing. Thank y'all. Have a good night. Be safe. Get more books, snacks, whatever. Thank you.